those weekly matchups, Brian, what are the 3 top weekly matchups that you're looking at? You've already touched on them, but let's go a little more in depth.
Yeah, so I think the first matchup again that jumps right off the page is Austin FC versus St. Louis City SC. And
Is
I
that
think,
that's
I
just
mean,
a thing
again,
we're going to be doing now?
I think that's the thing that everyone's doing now until there's an explanation for what that reasoning is between the the all caps. I think it's just how you say the name. But anyway, so I just with the injury to Nielsen, I was already targeting this matchup heavily. It just continues to move it up for me. Driussi played really well in their early matchups last season, scoring 3 goals and having 2 assists. They're a good team at home. Not a great team at home compared to, at home last year, their expected goal differential was right around average. But against poor opposition, they really took care of business, especially when they weren't connecting. Like Cincinnati and Miami last year were just not on the right page, on the strong. They didn't have a strong start to the season, so Austin really took advantage of that and beat them up pretty handily. So I think there's a really good chance that Austin FC takes care of business against St. Louis City in their first matchup, first game of as a team.
And to add to St. Louis City and kind of what they're coming into as an expansion
Yeah.
side, to give you guys some context and some numbers on how expansion teams have done, at least over the last 5 or 6 years, 3 of the last 6 expansion teams dating back to LAFC in 2018 have been shut out in their inaugural match. The only 3 that weren't were Charlotte, Austin, and Miami. I think that's correct, or maybe the list is backwards. Whatever.
No, you listed that. Yeah, the Charlotte definitely got shut out in their
Okay,
first
so
game.
those are the 3 teams that were shut
Yep.
out: Charlotte, Austin,
Yep.
Miami. Of those 6 teams, only LAFC won their inaugural match. Those 6 teams had 3 goals scored for, 12 goals against. That's a -9 goal differential for the last 6 expansion sides in their inaugural MLS match. Not great. And to make things worse, Austin FC are the biggest betting favorite in week 1 at -200.
Yep. And so then the next 2 matchups I'm looking at are Atlanta United versus San Jose. We talked about San Jose before in the last episode. I mean, they're just they score a lot of goals, but they also concede a lot of goals. And they're coming in on the road against Atlanta, a team that fared decently at home. Actually fared pretty well. They were a top 10 team at home based on expected goal differential. And San Jose were one of the worst teams, actually the worst team on the road last season based on expected goal differential. So, and on top of that, one of the main reasons I'm really targeting this matchup as well is just like I just talked about goals, lots of goals, a lot of goals potential in this matchup. It's one of the highest betting odds for goals over. So at plus 3.5 goals. Essentially those odds are saying is just they're expecting that there's a decent chance that there's at least 4 goals scored in this game. The odds are at plus 140. So I'm targeting this matchup not just for Atlanta because they're playing against a team that scores a lot of goals or gives up a lot of goals, but just the odds are in the favor that there's just a bunch of goals scored in this game.
Yep.
And along a similar line with FC Cincinnati and Houston
Let me
Dynamo.
hop in here real quick, Brian. Let
Oh,
me get
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
more
Sorry.
numbers. No, you're good, man. So there's also some history between these 2 teams.
Yeah.
Briefly, a young history. Atlanta are 3-0 all time versus San Jose and have scored 3 goals or more in all 3 outings. They've scored 11 goals in 3 matches and have a +5 goal differential. So they're giving up some goals to San Jose as well, like you mentioned. So there are going to be goals in this game, but Atlanta have not yet lost in their brief history to San Jose. 3-0, 11 goals scored. There's goals in this game, folks. There's reason why the bettors set their line where it's at there.
Yep, for sure. And I think on a similar line, FC Cincinnati versus Houston Dynamo, like I said at the beginning, I'm just all in on FC Cincinnati right now, and they're playing a pretty weak Houston Dynamo team with a new coach. They were 24th, one of the worst, 24th worst team on the road last season based on expected goal differential. Cincinnati was one of the best teams in expected goal differential. They were 5th last season. They have a strong attack. Lucho Acosta, which I'll touch on a little bit later, is also really just a fantastic player, especially at home. And this betting line again for the over plus 3.5 goals is set at plus 140, similar to the Atlanta San Jose match. So I just think there's another great opportunity to see some goals.
But Brian, I got to get you off your FC Cincinnati horse, right?
Please.
Houston are unbeaten in their last 11 season opening matches, right? Now they've only
Ooh.
lost 2 of 17 openers in club history. So Houston doesn't lose often in match week 1. It'll be a tough match for them against FC Cincinnati, though. I do agree with you there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would love to get off that perch a little bit, but I just man, the history isn't doing it enough for me. I just can't see myself not picking at least 2 Cincy players, probably 3 though as well for this one.
I can't either. So we touched a little bit on El Trafico and how Chicharito's absence is going to affect that match. Any other matches you want to talk about real quick?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think one more stat that really sticks out about El Trafico specifically, that game averages nearly 4.5 goals per time. And I actually, shameless plug, I wrote an article about it. Check it out at topin90.com to go in more detail. But there's a lot of goals in that game, whether or not Chicharito is ready to play. So if he is, there's him, or I mean, there's his substitute and other players that are ready to go, and there's goals due. Also, I'm interested in Dallas. They're playing a Reynoso-less Minnesota. I mean, I just think how he's like maybe the most key player to his team out of any player in MLS, just based on the amount of touches he gets. It's just he's pivotal to that team, and when he's not there, I just can't envision them being much of a threat. And so Dallas now piques my interest a little bit as well with him being out for week 1.
Yep. And keep in mind, Minnesota's last game in 2022, they got knocked out of the playoffs by FC Dallas. And this is a rematch of that game as well. I'm on a streak right now talking about unbeaten streaks. Dallas, I believe, are unbeaten in their last 13 season opening matches. I think that's the best streak in MLS right now.